What is up everyone, it's me Dan here, and today I'm going to be doing my review for Arrow Season 6 Episode 10 entitled Divided, which is also the mid-season premiere. So this is the first episode of Arrow that we've had for about 5 to 6 weeks, I want to say, which is of course the last episode we had before this one was Irreconcilable Differences, which was the mid-season finale. As you guys probably know, I was not a fan of that episode, and I gave it, I believe, a 4 out of 10 in my review. Didn't really like it, I found it very disappointing, so I went into this episode with pretty low expectations, to be perfectly honest. But the mid-season trailer that we got literally about a day before the episode aired got me a bit more excited for it, and I gotta say, this was a good episode of Arrow, which is something I've been longing for quite a while. Now, this wasn't a great episode. It's nowhere near up to the level of the Deathstroke 2-parters. Those, for me, are the best episodes of this season of Arrow, by far. But it was definitely an improvement over what we've had in the past few weeks from Arrow. So let's just get into the good things, the things I liked about this episode. And I'm just going to hit it right off. I felt like original Team Arrow versus the new Team Arrow dynamic that they had going on worked really well, of course, in the mid-season finale. The newest members of Team Arrow, which were obviously Rene, Dinah, and Curtis, all left Team Arrow, and I thought the dynamic and rivalry between those two was really good in this episode. And what I really liked was the fact that they actually mentioned points that infuriated me in the mid-season finale because they never brought them up. For example, the fact that some of the complaints I had with the fact that Oliver was being such a dick to original Team Arrow, and they directly mentioned that in this episode at the end, where Oliver actually apologizes for his behavior, which I was stunned. I didn't think they would do that, but they did, and I really liked that. And I liked the fact that Felicity and Diggle all got called out for their bullshit, and the fact that they just happily went along with this, with the fact that Oliver obviously invaded new Team Arrow's privacy when he was spying on them. So I really like that they did actually address that in this episode, and just the whole dynamic between them was fairly well done, considering it didn't even play that big a part in the episode. Another thing I liked about this episode was the action. I mean, this was directed by James Bamford, who was one of the main people for the stunt coordination on this show, and it was awesome. There's one fight scene in particular in the last 10 minutes, which is all one continuous shot of Oliver just taking down all these guys as the Green Arrow. Very well done. Probably my joint favourite fight scene of the season, alongside the Deathstroke fight scene in episode 5. I don't even need to go into detail for that because you already know what that fight scene is, but I really enjoyed that. I thought that was very, very cool. We also got to see a bit more of Ricardo Diaz in this episode, which was something I wanted to see for ages, because Kirk Acevedo really did a good job in the episodes beforehand, even though he'd only had about 2 minutes of screen time. Here they gave him a bit more to do, and I really liked him. I thought he was very, very cool. He definitely has this kind of swagger, but also a bit of menace behind him, and I loved that little bit of a potential seed planting for the fact that he'll kill Caden James with the line that he says to Caden after he lets Oliver go. He's like, for a smart guy, that was a pretty stupid move, or something along those lines. Really like that. It's kind of, like I said, foreshadowing the fact that he could potentially turn against Caden James and kill him later on this season. From what I've heard, it's going to happen in either episode 12 or episode 13, which wouldn't surprise me considering the stakes of Caden's attacks at the moment. This is kind of the stuff you would see at the end of a season, not halfway through, so I think that theory definitely has some weight to it. I've also got to mention Paul Blackthorne. He was great in this episode. Lance obviously had the storyline where he was reminiscing over whether Black Siren could be redeemed, and I really, really like that storyline. I'm going to say it again because I've said this many times on social media, but Paul Blackthorne is easily one of the best actors in the Arrowverse, in my opinion. He's so good, and he was great in this episode. I'm not going to lie, it made me a little bit emotional, some of the stuff he was saying about Laurel. I definitely think that his storyline this season is going to be him trying to redeem Laurel and, to prove himself right that there is a part of Earth 1 Laurel in Black Siren. And Black Siren, to get on the topic of that, I thought was pretty good in this episode as well. She had quite a few standout moments. The big one for me obviously being that canary kiss that she has pretty much in the opening scene. I really liked that. It was a really cool use of her powers, and I did really like her in this episode, even if we didn't get a whole lot of her. And overall, just the whole storyline in itself was very, very good, just with how it picked up. We had quite a bit of plot progression in this episode, like the fact that Team Arrow finally realised that the Arrow Cave had actually been bugged by Laurel back in the beginning of Season 6. So, obviously, they found out that, and they're now trying to, in a way, I guess, manipulate what they're saying in the Arrow Cave to their advantage, because obviously they know that Caden James has bugged the place, but Caden James doesn't know that they know about it. So I hope that plays into, you know, some confrontations that we could have in the Arrow Cave that are purposely done to mislead Caden James, because that'd be pretty cool to see, in all honesty. That being said, there were some issues that I did have with the episode. It wasn't perfect, like I said. It was a good episode of Arrow, but it wasn't great because there was quite a few issues I had with it. The big ones were the Vince and Dinah storyline, because, like I said, while I applaud them for trying to give them both a storyline, I found it so boring. These scenes, for me, I just didn't enjoy them. I really am not a fan of the actor who plays Vigilante or Vince, because he's just not that great, in all honesty. It feels so dry and wooden with his acting and how he states out the words. I think I already mentioned in my preview for the episode that whenever he speaks, he reminds me of a guy who's trying to do a Vin Diesel impression, because he has like this crazy mumble growl, which I don't like. They still haven't explained how his powers work, because there's this scene where he breaks out of some cuffs and like his blood slowly fades away. Like, his powers are so poorly explained. We need a proper explanation as to what his powers are. And the fact that he also beats Oliver at one point in a fight against him, it makes no sense in my opinion. Like, Oliver has defeated the head of the League of Assassins and Damien Dark and Prometheus, who trained for like God knows how many years to try and kill him, and he loses to a police officer. That's basically it. Like, Oliver should not be getting beaten by him. There is no excuses there. There's no excuses to lose in that fight, and that really annoyed me in the episode. Anatoly was useless in this episode. I was also a bit disappointed by the revelation of who the unlikely ally was, because we were all teased in that synopsis. We thought it was going to be someone from the villain team-up. It wasn't. It was literally just a relative of the Bertinelli family, and although I appreciated that reference to the Huntress, I didn't really like it all that much, because the character was instantly forgettable and he dies at the end of the episode anyway, so I was a bit disappointed by that. And once again, Caden James. I just don't like Caden James. There was nothing interesting about him in this episode. They gave no additional motives to him wanting to go against Team Arrow, and I just feel sorry for Michael Emerson, because he's such a good actor, but he's given absolutely nothing to work with the character of Caden James. I just find it so disappointing that such a high caliber actor has been given a character who lacks all, if any, forms of personality or anything to make him memorable, because he's easily one of the most forgettable, like, big bad Arrow villains that we've had in recent memory. And lastly, I've got to mention this: the fact that they cured Diggle's tremor in his arm was just, I know some people liked it, but for me personally, I wasn't a big fan of it. Why is Curtis got to be the one who has to fix all problems, that happen to Team Arrow? I mean, with Felicity getting paralyzed from the waist down, no, it's alright. Felicity can just have a chip in her spine that makes everything fine. Diggle gets a tremor. Oh no, Curtis has a chip that will make his tremor go away. And because of this now, there's literally barely any consequences from the Lian Yu explosion. Like, Thea was in a coma for 6 months, but she's awake now, and Diggle had a tremor in his arm, but now that's gone. Like, literally, the only casualty we have had now from Lian Yu, or like a big everlasting impact, is Samantha's death, and that was handled so poorly. So, once again, they are shitting on the legacy of that explosion, and that really does disappoint me. But with all that being said, I still did like the episode. I thought the episode was good overall. Like I said, there were some elements that I wish were improved on a little bit more, but it's by far better than the mid-season finale. There's no question about that. And so for that reason, I'm going to give this episode of Arrow a 8 out of 10. I can't really give it any higher with the problems that I had with it, but I will admit that this episode has got me more excited about Arrow Season 6. I hope they deal with this Caden James storyline sooner rather than later, and fingers crossed it will be done and over with in the next few episodes. So that's my review for Arrow's mid-season 6 premiere. Of course, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of the episode. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, leave a like on the video, and I hope to see you again next time.